Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United of the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast in association with Lucky Star Gin. I'm your host Mike, and with me today on the panel we've got David and Chris. I've got the right agenda up, and we're going to be talking about the loss to Forest Green Rovers and look forward to the visit of Boston next week. We've got a whole week in between games. It's amazing. Love hearing from you. Join the conversations, all the rest of it. Share your thoughts and give us your feedback. And on that note, just wanted to say thank you to Darren Neal for last week's photo, because in all the mishaps at the start, I forgot to mention that bit. And it's going to be Amber Army SU again for this week's photo. So do chuck in the photos. I do give you a shout out, and it means we don't have to use my rubbish photos anymore. But we're going to dive in. David, it's been a little while, but you did the end of season, I think. How have you been since?
Very good, thank you, Mike. Yeah, very good.
Excellent. And Chris, have you had enough ice baths and recoveries from bank holiday exertions?
Yes. So for those who don't know, I took part in the Epsom mascot derby as Jenny the Giraffe, which was interesting. Because I do part run, I was moderately, not necessarily confident, but thought I wouldn't let myself down. And then I realised I was up against a whole group of like 20-year-olds who looked fit as anything.
Yeah. And it is quite an unwieldy costume.
It is. Because like most of the other costumes, the people aren't having to hold on to their necks as they're running to prevent decapitation of the giraffe or themselves.
But middle of the pack, I think you were, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's decent. And also, I don't know if either of you have ever been on the turf of a race course. It was soft, the ground. It was not easy to run on. I have renewed respect for horses.
But you beat the Wombles, didn't you?
I beat the Wombles. I beat Rockin' Robin.
There you go. You see, so
amongst others.
But they're the ones. They were the ones to watch for. And I think probably middle of the pack is the highest we've ever finished in this.
Yeah, I mean, people did say, "Oh, you did well." Did I really? Okay.
So we're going to. You were set some homework,
yes,
as always, and we're going to hear the still not copyright claimed "Knowing Me, Knowing You" section. So, we are asking various questions just to get sort of an insight into how people think, what people think is important to them. These are your answers. There are no right or wrong answers to anything at all. So, David, we'll go with you first. What piece of team laws or story about Sutton United do you think every new fan should know? Obviously, lots of people do know a lot of Sutton stories, but some people won't know them. So, what's your kind of favourite Sutton story?
The legend that is Paul McKinnon, the club's leading goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
I think he should be on the O-level syllabus for everybody as they start out their Sutton United journey. I think from memory, I think he scored 287 goals, was it? Or 289 or something like that.
Don't be asking me facts. Come on. There's going to be people nodding along or shaking their heads. So I'm not going to take that abuse. But yeah, I think I have made my thoughts clear on Paul for a long time because when I first started is when he kept getting transferred to Malmo and coming back well after the season started, and everyone was delighted to see him back, and poor Lenny was pushed aside, and my heart belonged to Lenny. Years later, I realised how and why, but yeah, Paul is amazing. I did mention to him once we should get him on the show, but apart from a brief nod, I never heard back, so I have to chase him up. But yeah, absolutely right. Paul McKinnon is a legend. Chris, what's yours?
I'm going to go for something slightly more left field. To Mike's shock, I am going to go for Sutton United Gambia branch.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yes. So Sutton United have a club that's at least for one stage was named after us, and the story is that I think round about the year 2000, a mysterious man known only as Walter appeared in a Gambian city. There was a club that was in, I think, the equivalent of League One in the Gambia. And he said that he would give them £1,000 if they renamed the club to Sutton United Gambia branch. They duly did so because £1,000, is a fair amount of money, especially in those days, and etc. They then contacted Sutton United Sutton branch, who were, I think, somewhat surprised. And I don't think we know who Walter was or is. I must say, I have my own little theory.
Oh, okay.
I do wonder what Tim Vine was up to in the year 2000. It feels quite on brand.
I do know that inquiries were made and no one ever knew who Walter was. And obviously, bearing in mind on the forum that there's a lot of people that go back a lot of years, and you'd kind of think you know a lot of people, but no one, I think, knew who he was. And it did last quite a while. They came over for a couple of times. So
I think it faded a bit with COVID, because I remember pre-COVID, sort of like the late 2010s, you would see Gambia flags, and I remember also as well working with volunteers who'd come over from the Gambia. There was a guy at the Arsenal match who did a fantastic job in the tunnel, and he had come from the Gambia.
Yeah, he's very Sutton United. You're quite right. That's one that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know.
No, and if you ever go up into the boardroom, you will see a kind of like a ceremonial shield that was presented as a gift by Sutton United Gambia branch.
A giraffe speaking Gambia? I don't know. Is there giraffes in Gambia? I don't know. That would be a nice little link.
I don't know. I'll ask Jenny next time I see her.
Let us know your thoughts. Did you know both for those things? What's your favourite piece of Sutton United sort of legend lore that everyone should know or remember? Because there's things that people wouldn't know and forgot all about. There's no real news this week. Ladyside have taken quite a bit of drama over the last few days for a player that's played in the league for 5 years, but once they've signed for us, it's suddenly become very dramatic. So I think the game was postponed. I'm not entirely sure the reason. I'm not sure if it was there was a lot of interest in it as well, but I'm just speculating there. But there's no real news to go through there. Podcast wise, I did the meet and greet in the hospitality. I had roughly 3 jobs to do and forgot one of them completely and had to keep running after people anyway to hand in the second one. But I did manage to tick people off. So I was very proud. I ticked a piece of paper, but then I had to give them all the bands. And then I went, I've forgotten to scan the tickets. I'm really sorry. So wherever the attendance were, there was probably about another 14, 15 to add on to that. And me, actually, I didn't scan my ticket either. And I also did a live chat with Josh Coley. Thank God it was with Josh Coley, I have to say. And there was about 40 people watching, which freaked me out immensely. So if you were one of those people, let me know how I did, because I didn't like it at all. But on to the match. Because I was otherwise engaged, I didn't have an awful lot going on, see the team and all the rest of it. But what were, Chris, what was your sort of expectations and hopes prior to kickoff, and what did you feel about the lineup?
I think my expectation, or my hope prior to kickoff, was we wouldn't make a fool of ourselves on television. Does DAZN count as television, or DAZN, or however it's pronounced? Yeah, it does count as television. There was cameras.
TV,
yes,
so
yeah. I kind of hope we might win. Oh well. And like regarding the lineup, I mean, this is only the second match I've seen so far this season, so I was kind of like, these are names. These are names with numbers next to them. None of them
Fair
are
enough.
Josh Coley, because I know Josh is kind of like coming back from injury, and none of them is Dylan, who's lovely. Who is the player, one of the new recruits who I've spent the most time with.
I can see him in the tunnel with you.
Yes. Yeah.
What about
Hopefully
yourself?
David has more insight.
Yeah. What about yourself, David? What were you sort of hoping, expecting before kickoff, and what were your thoughts on the lineup? You're muted yourself. There you go.
Yeah, so we're a bit, I think, early in the season to have a kind of settled 11, and it would appear that our manager likes to rotate the players, and so I'm not at a stage yet where I can really second guess what the lineup's going to be. I don't really have any hopes or expectations. I'm beginning to, I think I probably now know about 5 of the players. I could probably confidently identify 4 or 5. And other than that, I don't know if I'm old enough to remember there's a bloke on the TV in the old days called Ron Atkinson, who in commentary always used to say things like the big lad up front and the wee lad, because he couldn't remember their names either. So I'm still at that stage where I'm just saying, the big lad and the little lad and the one who guns, one down the wing. But the team, what I've seen so far, the games this season, they all look very good in the sense that they seem quite interchangeable. So it doesn't seem yet that we have a kind of very strong first 11 and then a group of substitutes. It would seem that there's a strong squad and all of them are going to be playing a fairly significant role in the season. So I hope that's the case, because I think it's pretty unlikely you're going to get through 46 games, 46 games based on 11 players, or even 13 or 14. So I think you're going to need 17, 18, 19 to get through the season. Plus there's all these wacky trophies on the side as well. So that's a very long answer to say that I had no expectations, and I was very interested to see how it was all going to pan out.
Lovely. Well, I think I'm
going to try and be a bit more succinct on the next question, Mark. Sorry.
I think I know quite a few of the players, as long as they stay in their correct positions. I think if they started popping wings or playing up front and going into defence, I would struggle. But as long as they're where they're supposed to be, on the pitch, I'll be fine. Off the pitch,
tats.
Tyler's got tats, yeah. If they were off the pitch, I would be like, just remind me who you are again. But I could put that down to being old. That was one of my big fears on the the hospitality thing, is if someone comes in that I speak to a lot, and then all of a sudden I've got to go, and your name, even though I've spoken to you loads, I don't know who you are. But
and to add extra fun, there was somebody without a number on their back for the second
match. I knew that. That was Charlie, because it was blood, I believe. Was there? I think so. He had his shirt changed.
Yeah, I knew he had his shirt changed.
Yeah.
I assume it was. I have no insider information.
Yeah. But how did we? I mean, Forest Green, they've gone almost the opposite to us. They've gone for the experienced players, and with the spending not loads, but trying to get up with spending rather than with the younger players that we've chosen to go with. It was kind of bitty, but then the goal came. Did you? I mean, it seemed to me that when Ransom came on, there may have been a little bit of confusion of who was picking up who, and we scored the goal. But generally, how do you think we dealt with the long throws and set pieces? Is conceding from a set piece basically a cause of concern? David, we'll start with you on this one.
No.
Okay.
It's not a concern. It wouldn't be a concern for me, because I think you're going to concede goals. I mean, it's the guy, I can't remember the guy's name, who's got that massive long throw.
Tozer, isn't it? I think.
Tozer, that's right, yeah. And
you can pronounce it differently if you like.
Yeah, and well, you're going to concede goals against that, aren't you? It's a bit like having a corner coming straight in, but on a much flatter trajectory.
Yeah.
So I guess that they're doing it because it works. So I don't think there's any shame, particularly in conceding a goal. We conceded a goal. That happens, you know.
And do you think it was more to do with the change and the little kind of, it was a forced change, so it wasn't a planned, we can go, we'll do it here, there. So do you think it had anything to do with the change, or is that just me?
I really couldn't. I don't know. My word, far be it from me to say that you're overanalyzing anything, but I don't know. I couldn't necessarily correlate it to that. No, I don't think so.
Fair enough. And Chris, what did you think about the set piece threat, and was the first goal down to anything?
I think I'm less forgiving because we ought. It is no secret that the man has a catapult throw, so we ought to be able to kind of go, yeah. This guy launches balls like ballistic missiles, so we need to be watching, and because it looked to me from the tunnel as if we fell asleep. I watched the highlights this afternoon. I think I'm a little bit more relaxed, but still, I just felt that it was something that we could have and should have dealt with. So it may well be confusion. I think you need to mark your centre forwards.
Yeah,
and it didn't look like that was happening.
Yeah, so we did have a few sort of chances, half chances. Were you a little bit frustrated that we didn't convert any of these before half-time, Chris, or was it just good marshalling? Because again, mentioned Tozer, he's obviously a very experienced bloke organising everyone at the back. Yeah. Was it frustrating, or was it just that kind of like, it's just not quite our day yet?
So I think it was frustrating. I mean, I just felt it wasn't going to be our day. And earlier on today, I watched Steve Cottrell's post-match interview, the current Forest Green Rovers manager, and I kind of agree with him that to be honest, we didn't really look like scoring, and and I think if it had been a draw, we'd have taken it, but I kind of felt that we'd have been quite lucky.
Yeah, fair enough.
Honest answer. I wish that we'd had more chances, and then suddenly when we later on in the second half, when we did score, I was very surprised.
And what about yourself, David? Did you rue those chances, or were you thinking, oh, it's going to come?
I thought we played pretty well. I mean, I was quite impressed, actually. There was 2 or 3 players that I thought were kind of standout for me. What did seem a bit lacking is we had a lot of play being developed down the right-hand side, as far as I could see, and the ball didn't quite kind of come into the box necessarily in proportion to the number of times that we got down to a very interesting position just outside the box. And so there did, I dread to say that those things about the lack of a final ball, or that's a bit of a cliche, but there did seem to be a bit of an absence of the definitive pass into the box, and it did feel sometimes like the crosses were a bit more in hope than expectation, kind of lobbing a wedge into the area and see what happens. Whereas as opposed to a pass to somebody in a scoring position. But of course, that's also because we're not playing on the pitch on our own, right? So there's another team, and they actually were defending very effectively, and they were marshaled, they were very well organised, and so it's not that easy. But yeah, there did seem to be a lot of very good midfield play. Ball got up into the last part of the pitch and then didn't seem to kind of get anywhere interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the.
I don't know if you guys had this sense, but I got the sense that we were a bit lopsided in the sense it all seems to be happening down the right hand side. Is that fair, or is that very unfair? That was my perception. But
I'm not sure if that was deliberate. Nana's very, very quick and very good as well. But the getting the ball into the box is something I was going to kind of go on to do. A couple people have mentioned that on social media about things like free kicks and getting early crosses in. But I was feeling that we did do that early, but they were just dealing with everything, and we weren't winning anything in the box. So what's the point of crossing it in or lumping it in if all it's going to do is come back out? So I think they were trying to keep the possession and work it in a bit better. But it just wasn't happening. But yeah, I get everyone's just like, get it in the box. But there's no point if they're just going to head it back out.
And also, again, based on what I was seeing, that their defenders were very tall and our front line is not that tall. And so in terms of aerial balls into the box, we're clearly at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So that didn't seem to be working terribly well either.
Yeah, there was definitely a height difference.
Yes.
So, yeah. Chris, what did you think about the getting it forward, getting it in, or were you happy to see them try and work it?
I was happy to see us trying various things, but I mean, it was, as David was saying, it's quite clear that we were dealing with a very well-marshaled defence. I mean, I did feel that like we might get something sort of like that could be a little bit of a scrappy goal. And like the goal that we did score was definitely not scrappy. It was a very good goal, but also as well it was kind of like a bit of a ways back. So and I'm glad that we did try a couple of attempts at kind of like long range shots on target. So like we were kind of going, okay, well this isn't working. Let's try this.
Yep.
So there's creativity, which certainly we didn't see that much of. For large patches of last season. So I'm kind of glad that like players, are trying things, and I have a degree of hope that as they all get to know each other better, that a lot more of the the creative stuff will play off.
Exactly. It is again game 6. So I know there's lots of other teams in similar positions with teams as well, but sometimes you feel a bit harsh. But you mentioned the goal. Did you think at that point, Chris, that do you know what, we might go on and do this now the momentum has shifted to us, or did you think shut up shop?
I did have this sneaky feeling that we might win it, and I was thinking that it would have been quite unfair, but I wouldn't have had an issue with it. I did think, because like Forest Green did seem to collapse a little bit. But then it was like what, a minute or two later that they scored again.
David, how were you feeling after the goal, and what did you think about the goal that we scored?
I thought it was a great goal. I mean, it was a proper goal, like properly worked, and there were some passes, and the guy, he laid it off, and again I can't remember the name of the guy who laid it off now. And the guy who scored, which I should know that now. I should know.
Civvy
scored. Jeremy Civvy scored.
Jeremy Civvy, right? That's it. Yeah, and he took it extremely well. So it was a kind of proper, well worked goal. And from that moment on, I actually thought we might get a second, and we looked really. I thought we looked really lively, and it was a shame that they got one at the end. I reckon a draw would have been a fairly fair result. But in the end, in football, it never is a fair. I mean, whoever scores more goals wins. That's the name of the game, right? So there's no point saying it would have been fair or it should have been. I mean,
history
the whole objective of the game is to score more goals than the other guy.
Yeah, history doesn't record.
Like that.
Yeah, history doesn't record all the very different chances.
And I think we spent all the number of oohs and ahs that you have, or how much effort you play. All that stuff that's all good stuff. But I found yesterday really actually very encouraging. I felt very positive about it. I thought there was tons of good stuff. There was a lot of good play. There was some really good. I don't know if I'm in a minority of one here, but I thought there were loads of good individual performances, lots of energy. You can see what we're trying to do, I think. And that to me was really encouraging. We're only on game 6 with a completely new squad, effectively. Yeah. So I think there was tons to be encouraged about.
Yeah.
And we're going to lose games. We're going to lose games in a season. We're going to lose. So so what? You just move on to the next one, but I think we've got to move on, but being encouraged. I think because we weren't walloped by them at all.
No,
I don't think.
So
we held our own. I think for I would say if it was a kind of points decision, it would be something like 5.5, 4.5. I think they shaded it probably on play and chances, but not by very much.
No. So
that was the thing I found slightly strange about listening to Steve's interview, or little bits of it that were on YouTube, where he sort of like felt that we outplayed them. And like, I know he's the manager; he's going to talk stuff up and everything, but yeah, because I would say, well, I mean, yes, we did well. Yes, we are doing well for a team that didn't know each other 2 to 3 months ago. So yeah, we are doing well. Though also, I think we were kind of like off balance outplayed. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I did slightly wonder what Steve had watched, but also he's always.
Did you think?
Well, he did that a few weeks ago. There was a game where he kind of roasted the team. Was it Tamworth? And said we weren't great.
Yeah.
No, it might not be.
I think it was Tamworth. Yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of roasted them and was listening. And he sort of said, actually, I watched it back and it wasn't as bad as I thought. So when he was saying all that yesterday, I did think, I wonder if we're going to hear him go, well, I watched it back actually, and it wasn't as good as I thought it was. But yeah, I mean, as I said, Forest Green have recruited experienced players. They know how to play. Our players know how to play, but I think the experience told. I'm not saying I'd rather have a team of experienced players, because I think our team is far more exciting and going to be interesting to watch. Definitely, we're going to get the fun back, which is what I've been saying is what I want. So yeah, I thought it was disappointing, and yes, I get why some people have said the things which I'll get onto in a minute. But David said we're going to lose games.
Yeah.
If we went through the whole season unbeaten, it would be very surprising. Yeah. But the late winner, which came very shortly after the late equaliser, I mean, first of all, how the hell did he keep it in? It's like, come on, let's go now. But the cross then was an excellent cross and a good finish. Obviously, you hate to say it, but were you gutted, or did you think, you know what, they probably did deserve that? I know it's a late conceding goal, and you're always going to be gutted, but on balance, did you feel like, yeah, they should have had that? David, you go first.
Well, it's disappointing, isn't it, always to lose it? I mean, it's disappointing to lose a goal in the last minute, effectively. I mean, that's what it was. Mm-hmm. And that, I don't think they necessarily deserved it. I mean, they deserved it because they scored 2, we scored 1. That's the name of the game, right? So that's what they did, and we didn't. So, but I think a long time ago, I realised in football that it doesn't make any difference whether the goal is scored in minute 1, minute 10, or minute 95. It's all the same. And I don't think a goal is any more or less lucky because it happens to be scored at the end than it would be in the first minute or the 23rd minute. So I think all of that side of it I don't think it makes any difference really to how I feel about losing or winning. I mean, we were there at Wembley, weren't we, when we lost in the last minute? It doesn't make any difference that we lost, and it could have been the last minute or any other minute. It just, in the end, it's just it hurts a bit more when it's in the last minute, but really it's all the same.
You can't react, that's all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Chris, how are you feeling at the late winner?
I think frustrated, but also as well, like, after the match, I didn't feel melancholic, which is what I did sometimes last season. We're also just watching back on the highlights. It was an incredible kind of was it a kick or a throw by the keeper to kind of like get it up there? I mean, it was phenomenal work. Like I would almost say Pickford-esque. He did. Even though it seemed right down there in the tunnel, like watching it just seemed as if it kind of like came from nowhere. But and which is what often happens when you have kind of like breakaway goals. But it was, I thought, actually a really well done bit of play. But it was just
and it was brilliant. It was brilliantly taken. The goal was very well taken. I mean, it was, he put it into the bottom corner. Steve Arnold had not a chance.
No chance at all.
Yeah.
But the question is it a bit of the youthful naivety that we had just equalised and we were going to try and get the winner rather than just going, you know what, lads, we've got out of jail here a little bit. Let's just sit tight. I personally, and I think Steve does this as well, would rather we went, you know what, we've just taken the momentum, let's try and get another one. But what would you do, Chris? Do you think it's maybe we should have just settled for the draw and booted it out?
I think I would have preferred us to have settled for it, but I can also understand the appeal of to use a cricketing term, the baseball approach, which seems to be what we're trying to do here. So, I mean, it's entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are times where I'm just watching through my hands. I mean, literally yesterday.
Yeah, but I mean, same question to you, David, but the question really is only coming up because it didn't go our way. If we had got a late winner, we'd have been going brilliant, fantastic. But do you think it was maybe we should have went, let's just stick with what we got? We got a draw, we're unbeaten still.
Yeah, hindsight's so much easier than foresight.
Absolutely.
The thing is, in life, had we scored having that attacking verve and intent and ambition, then we would all be sat here, celebrating that attitude and what a fantastic way is to play the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't have it both ways.
Exactly. We want the excitement.
Well, I think, I personally think that going for 3 points at home is a really positive thing to do. Of course, I suppose in an ideal world, what you would do is a spread bet where you attack and you leave a couple of people back or a couple more people back. But I'm not the football tactician saying how you do that. But but probably on another day, you would have thought maybe the ball just needs to be booted into Collingwood Rec and
another day that ball bounces out over the touchline.
We go down into there's always elements of luck involved because I mean that was a matter of millimeters. It could have gone the other way. The guy just could have scuffed his shot.
Yeah, it's so many spots. But
but I think we should be. I personally think that there's a lot to be positive about the team and the way they played, and I reckon if we keep on playing like that this year, we'll do pretty well. I'm not sure we'll do well enough to get into the playoffs. That's a big ask, I think, for a brand new team. But that's like another conversation, isn't it? Time will tell. But I think that I think some really good performances there. Like I thought the Charlie Waller, right, was
left back.
I thought it was terrific. Like he had some kind of those raking runs forward, which are brilliant. I've got the names here actually. I've got the lineup, so like I actually get the names right. The guy Barbrook I thought looked really good.
Yeah.
Lewis Simper looked really good. I think that there was a lot of really good performances. Overall, I thought it was very positive.
Yeah. I mean,
I know there was some criticism of Simper, some of his positioning, but I mean, I did enjoy his contributions. But it's
very, very good. So, the unbeaten run, overrated. Don't want them anyway. But now we can argue that there's no wins in 3. It's one extreme to the other. So Steve kind of, as we mentioned, he's kind of put it down to one of those things. We played all right, and it just didn't fall for us. I did, when I was speaking to Josh, the thing yesterday, I did try to clarify the whole thing where Steve doesn't mind conceded goals, and Josh kind of went, I think that's very, very simplifying how he actually feels about it, because there's a lot of things that he would criticise to allow that goal. So he said, don't worry, he does criticise goals going in. It's not just all go for it. We've covered quite a lot of the stuff I'd written about post-match about it was a good performance. Certain players played well, but this just didn't click for whatever reason. Some of the things I wanted to pick you guys up is I'd already mentioned about the set pieces and the pumping into the box, but there was a couple things like worst performance of the season, which technically I suppose is correct because we lost. It's the first loss. Yeah.
I mean, it'll be probably the best performance of last, or one of the better performances of last season, but it's the worst performance of this season so far. Yeah,
not good enough, and we threw it away. I'm thinking potentially these are knee-jerk, overly harsh reactions to a loss. But David, what do you think? As I say, worst performance of the season.
I don't know who said that. Is this like on the message board or whatever?
Different people on different media. Naming their names.
So I'm very bad at following stuff online. I don't really. Well, people can say what they want, can't they? I mean, it's a free country, so. But I do think you're likely to get quite a lot of knee-jerk reactions from people, and I don't think that just losing a game against a team which was relegated from League Two last year, which has got a decent squad, there's no shame in that. We're going to lose games this year like everybody else. If you check in next week, this could easily be reversed, and Forest Green will lose and we'll win, and then everyone So I don't think we've gone from being fantastic world beaters to terrible in a week. And all that stuff about the unbeaten run was getting on my nerves anyway, Mike, because that reminds me a bit of the old days in the last period of the previous manager. There was a lot of that stuff about we've lost one game in 6 or we've drawn 3 games of 4, and I think you can always cut and splice those stats to make it seem like you can tell yourself whatever narrative you want to believe. So the unbeaten run, the unbeaten run is not useful really in itself. I mean, it's more interesting to be winning games and getting 3 points, in my opinion.
There is a psychological, we've not been beaten yet, but again, it's one of those things of when it gets to, like, let's say 12 games, you then have to think, well, actually, we want to protect the unbeaten run rather than go for the win. So you're right, it eventually gets too much, I think. But Chris, what were your thoughts on some of the comments going around? I mean, don't get me wrong, there were others defending and saying, actually, no, it was a good performance. I was just picking out some of the for you to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. Yeah, I can understand frustration, and also I think the fact that we did it in front of TV cameras is also, I think that will rankle a bit. But I mean, I know of like one of my colleagues. It was his first game this season, so he has decided that he is unlucky. And for me, I've only seen us get 1 point so far this season. So I was like, do I hand in my notice?
Watch. Keep doing it.
If I could do a little shout out to, there was a friend of mine at the game yesterday. Physically, I was watching on TV because I'm outside of the UK at the moment, and a good friend of mine was at the game, and we were swapping messages during the match, and he was there last season with me at quite a few games, and his view was that it was a lot better than last year, much more attacking intent, more energy, more verve, and so I think I would agree with that.
Yeah,
overall, I think we're looking good.
Excellent. Yeah, when we concede, I have a kind of like a hope that we will score again to equalise. Whereas last season,
we're going to concede again.
Yeah.
There'll be another goal in this, but it's going in our end. Right, we're going to wrap up on the match with the final bit of the good, the bad, and the funny. So it's the whole match day experience. So, David, I don't know what you're going to say about the whole match day experience, but you watched it on a new TV platform. So there you go. So what was good? Oh, hang on. I've got to play the jingle, haven't I? I can't just go into it.
Yeah, Mike, what are we going to do without the jingle?
And that one does get copyrighted every week. So what was good? So David, we'll start with you. What was good about the match day?
Are you talking about the game or the match day experience?
Yeah, you can have the TV channel, whatever was good about the day for you.
Okay, what was good about the day? Well, I'll tell you this TV thing, because I'm outside of, when I'm in the UK, which I'm kind of half and half in terms of time, I get to all the games that I can, but when I'm not, I always watch on TV. And I think it's amazing actually that we've got Of course, it's not absolutely fantastic HD mega uber cameras because it's not the Premier League. There's only one camera angle. The commentators are not, necessarily at the kind of, most professional level, but I think they do a really good job. You get to see what's happening, and I think that's quite something. And I'm assuming it's generating a bit of revenue for the club. I don't know how much, and I don't know. It'd be interesting to know how many people tune in. What the gate is, what the TV gate is for these games. I can't imagine it's more than a couple of hundred. I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't know if it cannibalizes either the people attending the game. So I don't know whether at some point there'll be people saying, "Well, I'll just stay at home and watch this rather than go to the game," especially in a league where you've got matches which are miles away. But but I think that's really good.
Yeah, cool. Was it our commentators that were on there? Do you know, or was it? No,
it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you which is which, but the guy the week before had a very good sense of humour. He was good. He was really good, and they knew who the players were. They're quite knowledgeable. The guy yesterday seemed to be an ex-pro.
Right.
He was talking to one.
If it's the Eastleigh match, that's Joe.
Yeah,
that's Joe who comes on here.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah, no, he was great.
SUST this season, so he'll be delighted.
Okay. And then yesterday there seemed to be a guy on who seemed to know a lot about football, and he'd obviously been on the inside, but I couldn't tell you who it was. Yep. Sorry about that.
And that's all right.
I think there was a former manager of Forest Green Rovers who was certainly involved in part of the presentation team. I don't know if he was doing the commentary.
Okay.
But yeah, I watched highlights from both our Twitter or Twitter, let's call it Twitter, account and Forest Green's, and it was exactly the same feed with exactly the same commentary.
Fair enough.
So I assume it was kind of like, it was, that doesn't, yeah, whatever. But yeah. I will say for my good. So we had a lovely series of conversations with a gentleman in a very nice suit called Tony, who was part of the DAZN presentation team and was often kind of like in and around the benches. He called one of my colleagues the most helpful man in Sutton. Which was, and he was lovely. I didn't quite catch what Tony's surname was, but Tony was a treat, and I look forward to him coming back.
Lovely.
Yes.
So we're going to stick with you. What was bad for you?
What was bad? I don't know. I think kind of conceding. Oh, actually, the fact that Ambers wasn't available was annoying.
Yeah.
So people had to kind of like go into the 1898/VP bar because there was a party planned, and though I can also understand from a commercial point of view that we had probably signed deals and contracts assuming that it was going to be a 3:00 kickoff. So yeah, I mean it was slightly annoying and kind of did make I think some people feel as if we were kind of like being forced into a small room in our own club, because that was kind of what was happening. But it's fine. I think people would have been less moany about it if we'd won.
Yeah. Not sure. I'm not going to join in with all of it, but there was a bad doing to do with the bar staff as well, because there were various people who weren't available, and one of the drafts went, or one of the gas went, or whatever. I don't understand it, and they were getting quite a bit of abuse, especially from one particular person, and it was just not pleasant. But unfortunately, it was in the other bar where not the sort of regulars drink, so no one really heard it or could intervene. So it's like, oh, we wish that happened around the other side where someone could have went, no, we don't do that here. But David, what was your bad on the day?
Conceding a goal in the 89th minute.
Fair enough. It's
got to be.
And what was funny? Don't say conceding a goal in the 89th minute. That wasn't funny.
Chris, are you gonna?
Well, I've got a kind of like, what funny weird was how pernickety the referee suddenly got in the second half, and I was like, "Oh, you want this to be a perfect game of football? Okay, all right." That and also like what that there was that incident. I think it was late on in the second half where kind of where Forest Green utterly seemed to miskick a free kick, and then it suddenly became kind of like a drop ball kind of situation. I was like, I had no idea what was going on there, nor did anybody else, and that seemed all quite mystifying. Funny, amusing was overhearing a member of Sutton staff having to negotiate with Domino's and sort of like say, "Are you really here?" Because the players often get their post-match meal from Domino's, and Domino's required a bit of persuading or something. I think the driver had got lost, or something. Or so there was certainly a bit of a to-do going on, and I was kind of thinking, yeah, this is like some of my friends say that I live a Ted Lasso life, and I was like, yeah, this has got a bit Ted.
Yeah, absolutely. There was another decision. I think it was in the first half. Will was being pulled back by his shirt. You could literally see his shirt being pulled, and the referee gave a free kick against us. So I don't pretend to understand all the rules, but that seemed really odd. But David, what was funny about the day for you? Adverts during the first half? I don't know how.
Mike, I've been thinking about this for 24 hours non-stop, and I haven't been able to think of anything that was particularly funny. I'm really sorry. I've screwed up your format.
It's all right. The fact you were thinking about it for 24 hours.
But neither weird nor humorous. I just like nothing particularly that falls into that category.
No problem at all. Excellent. Right. So we are going to dive into the Free Q preview. I should have mentioned this before we're off camera. Apparently, when this video starts playing, there's a little unmute button that you need to press on your own systems, which allows you to hear what they've got to say. So we're just going to go with this now and hear what Damien had to say from Up the Pilgrims podcast. Okay, and now once again for the Free Q preview. And we are being joined by Damien of the Up the Pilgrims podcast, a Boston United fan. So we're going to find out a little bit more about yourself, Damien, and if you could just tell us a bit of your history of supporting Boston and about the podcast, how it got started and whatnot.
Yeah, so my name is Damien. I am the creator and host of Up the Pilgrims podcast. I'm a season ticket holder at Boston United. I have been for about 2 years now. I've been sort of following them since about 2012, I would say. And I worked for a local radio station. I did some commentary on the games. And then I was enjoying it so much, I've actually become a proper fan and go every week now and get to as many away games as I can and go to all the home games.
These clubs kind of, they do draw you in when you always say to everyone like follows the Premier League, come to your local club and you won't regret it. And then 30, 40 years later, you're going, oh, actually, I do regret that a little bit. But
it's good fun. It is good fun. Ups and downs.
Yeah. So what were your expectations coming into the season? And how has it gone so far?
To be honest, myself and I think many fans weren't expecting great things this season. Survival, finishing fifth from bottom, maybe bottom half. We'd be happy with that, just staying up. After the first 3 games, it wasn't looking good, really. We lost all 3 to top clubs, I would say. Rochdale, Forest Green, Southend, clubs that I think are going to do quite well in the National League this season. So we didn't play well. We made mistakes. They were much quicker than us. You could tell they were probably full-time clubs, whereas we're using the hybrid system. And it wasn't looking great. We broke our duck against Tamworth last weekend, and we got our first goal, which was fantastic, and we nearly won the game. And 20 seconds from the end of the game, unfortunately, we conceded. which was disappointing. Felt a bit like a defeat. Went to York, Bank Holiday Monday. Looking, we won that 2-0, first win of the season, 2 more goals, and on a bit of a high. And then on Saturday just gone, we played again against Yeovil, and unfortunately we had a player sent off fairly early on. I think most Boston fans would say it wasn't a sending off. It was a tough one, really, but it ruined the game, to be fair. And Yeovil went on top after that, and there was no coming back for us, and unfortunately went down to another 3-1 defeat. So we sit second from bottom. Still, fans are very much behind the team. We're travelling in numbers to away games and getting right behind the team, and just hoping, we know we're going to get a few defeats this season, but we're hoping we're going to also get enough draws and wins to, I think, fingers crossed, keep us in the National League where we feel we do actually belong.
Yeah, it's always a difficult one when you get that promotion, because whatever level you're going up, you get punished for things that you would have got away from. Eventually all of us get to a level where we start losing more than we're winning, and it's like, oh, is it worth the fun to have all this? But we're not going to change it, are we? But
no, of course not.
what do you see as your team's main sort of strengths and weaknesses at the moment, and who are the key players that we should be looking out for?
Right. Well, I think our key is we're good at we're a good passing team. I would say we are a decent passing team. We've done it over the last few years. This season, I would say for weaknesses is a lot of silly mistakes. We have made a few mistakes, especially at the back. The team has changed frequently. Every game, we've not had a solid team for every game so far. I think the manager, Ian Culverhouse, is still trying to sort the team out, get it right. As I say, we've made these silly mistakes, but we have started to play a bit better. We're starting to get used to the league now. I would say the last two or three games, we've started to play better. And yesterday, when we played Yeovil, we played much better.
Yeah.
But it was just, unfortunately, we were down to 10 men, and I thought we did really well. Considering the players gave it a go and did their best. As for players to look out for, Dylan Hill, I would say, is number one. Dylan Hill, he's kind of a defender, but he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a young lad, always running, always doing his best. Wants to give 110%, will give 110% to the team, whatever the case. And yeah, we've got a few defenders to look out for. Bostwick, who's had league experience as well in the past with many teams, including Stevenage, I believe. So Michael Bostwick, that is. So he's okay. And I would say Dylan Hill is the main one to look out for, a fan favourite as well.
And how do you see the game going? Our pitch has been redone. It's beautiful. It's perfect. So if your team like to pass it around, they will very much enjoy playing on there. But how do you see the game going? What kind of game are we going to be looking forward to? It's going to be open, a bit cagey. What do you reckon?
I think it could be quite open, actually. I think that, as I say, we do like to pass it about. We've got a few midfielders as well, that can hold it and play well. We like to try and get attacking football as and when we can, maybe hit on the break. That could be an option. I think it's going to be a tough game, and I think it's something that I'm going to say for 46 times this season that every game is going to be tough this season. I think we're going to, like I say, we're going to go down there in numbers, as I said earlier on. And after, I think you guys lost yesterday, didn't you? You lost as well.
Yeah,
unfortunately. So, as I say, I think it'll be an open game. I'm going to go for a draw.
A draw?
I think a 1-1 draw. I would say.
1-1 draw.
I think we've got to try and be a bit more positive. We played well at York last week,
Mm-hmm.
and we got the upper hand against them. And you never know. I think we could do it again.
Fair enough. Perfect. Well, that's going to make the headline for the program. 1-1 draw, says Damien. But thank you very much. Good luck for.
It'll be interesting.
Good luck for the majority of the season, and we will see you on Saturday. Okay, just so you also know, you go on mute straight away after playing video. So, what did you think there, Chris? We'll start with you. Did he match what your kind of thoughts were? It's been a struggle for them this season.
I think that I can understand why they're kind of feeling a little bit like how they are given their league position. So I was also looking at Wikipedia at their squad, and according to Wikipedia, they have an Australian international cricketer playing for them. Cameron Green. The Wikipedia article slightly amusingly links to the wrong person. So unless he's doing a kind of like an Ian Botham-esque playing both sports. So we'll wait to see if an Ashes cricketer rocks up. I can understand his nervousness.
Perfect. David's just can't. I was just about to go, David, and he disappeared from the screen. But David, what did you think about what Damien had to say there?
Encouraging.
Yeah.
Because I think if they like passing the ball around, but they're not very confident they're going to do very well this year, that sounds like a great combination for us. So I'd like to. I think if we go and play the way we did yesterday against the team at the bottom of the league, we should win. I think we'll win. And I think also that although it's very, very early in the season, I'm going to say something very obvious here, but 3 points now is the same as 3 points in March. So we've got to put points on the board. So if we are playing one of the weaker teams and we're playing at home and we've got a week to recover from the previous game, then I think we should be coming out the traps flying and looking to win comfortably. I think that should be the ambition. So I'd like to see a really super mega positive performance and a 3 or 4-0 win.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to ask your prediction in a second. I've almost got that picture right. It's close. It looks awful, but it's close. So there's the current leaderboard at the moment. Pessimistic PC didn't get the result right yesterday, which is brilliant for everyone else. But hardly anyone got anything right yesterday, to be honest. I think the top point scorer was someone who got Jeremy as a goal scorer. So if you do want to join in, the link is coming up right now, or it's on all the socials, and I remind everyone twice a week or something. So join in if you want to play along. But to you guys, what is your actual prediction? So you said 3 or 4, David. What's your actual going to be? Go on. Is it 3 or 4-0 you want to go for?
3. I'm going to go 3-1.
3-1. Okay. And yourself, Chris?
2-0.
2-0. Well, I'm going to stick with my very boring 2-1 until I get one right. So we're standing at, I believe, 60 games now that I've not got a result right. So don't put any money on 2-1.
Have you thought about changing strategy, or are you?
No, I'm sticking.
No,
you know what? Okay. If I change, what's going to happen on Saturday? It's going to be 2-1. I'll be like fuming. We were very close the other day as well. But yeah, we're all good. So we're going to actually wrap up this episode. Thank you, everyone, for your attention and feedback. We would like you to follow us, share, like, retweets, do all the rest of it on social media. Let us know which Sutton story lore you think others should know. Subscribe, leave reviews. Let me know what you think. If you're at the meal yesterday, let me know what you think of my live broadcast. And we are back on Sunday with Joe and Sarah. This is not a typo. This is not an old thing. We are back on Sunday with Joe and Sarah because it's kind of re-gone around again. We're in September now. So get the questions sent in. As always, thank you to our sponsors, Lucky Star Gin. Big thank you to our panel today, David and Chris. Thank you both. And thanks to you, the listeners. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Sutton Podcast. And take care. We will catch up soon. Bye-bye. United! 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 United!